What is up, everybody? It's Vicious here, and today I'm going to be giving you my review of Sonic Frontiers. I am a longtime Sonic fan. I'm so big of a Sonic fan that me and Sonic actually share the same birthday, June 23rd. I've been playing Sonic games since I could, actually. I remember when I was a young kid with a Sega Genesis. Well, I barely remember this, to tell you the truth, but we had Sonic on the Sega Genesis. I don't know what happened to our Sega Genesis, but when the Sega Dreamcast came out, I got Sonic Adventure, and then Sonic Adventure 2, and also Sonic Shuffle. But I kept getting Sonic games from that point going forward. I am a very long time Sonic fan at this point. I'm one of the OGs. And I gotta say, I really like Sonic Frontiers. There's a lot of things that I feel like they got right in this game, and there's a couple of things that I feel like they got wrong, and some things that I think really need to be patched. And I'd love for you to stick with me through this video so I can tell you all about it. Alright, time to talk about the elephant in the room, which is Sonic being in a completely open world game. Well, let's not say completely just yet. I'll save that for later. So, you're in an open world game, which Sega calls an open zone game, and it fits Sonic really well. If you really enjoy Sonic Adventure 1 Hub Worlds, I think you'd feel right at home here, even more so. With all the platforming and obstacles that they give you here, you have different enemies, you have different types of enemies, different grades of enemies, which can do different things. And most importantly, you actually have some direction. You have missions, and you have other things that you can go to, like cyberspace levels. The cyberspace levels are stages which are based on Sonic's corrupted memories, which honestly I think is kind of a cop-out, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. They recycle some of the stage designs from previous Sonic games, meaning Sonic Generations, Sonic Unleashed. I think there's some Sonic Colors in there, but they recycle a lot of stage designs, and there's even a lot of like Sonic Adventure style stages, which honestly, it's funny how Sonic Adventure stages still continue to be my favorites. But I would say these stages are pretty cool, but I'll get to them a little bit later. I still want to touch on the open world, or the open zone. I'm sorry, Sega. The open zone provides a couple of challenges. You have mini games and puzzles that you get to go through. The difficulty within these challenges and puzzles range from being brain dead easy to being kind of challenging. I'm not gonna lie. I think the one that stumped me the most is a Tetris puzzle. Either a Tetris puzzle, or it was one of the puzzles where you had to like run on something to like make the pattern work with Sonic or something along those lines. Maybe I have some footage to show you, hopefully. But anyway, you can't replay any of these puzzles once you do them, which is kind of sad. And there's no New Game Plus, spoiler alert. So honestly, once you get done with these, you have to start a whole new game on your own. Which, you know, there is a mod to sort of have New Game Plus. So, you know, if you have a PC, have at it. But if you have a console, then you're kind of just stuck. Sonic Frontiers also has a story, and while I wouldn't call it the most captivating story in the franchise, I'd say it's a step in the right direction. And I really enjoy the performances from the secondary characters, which I wish were playable, being Amy, Knuckles, and Tails. Tails especially, because Tails actually talks about some things that you could tell he's been building up for a long time, and they actually explain why he was such a punk in Sonic Forces. And when you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. His hero, Sonic, the person that he looks up to most in this world, was captured and tortured, which actually, he was captured and tortured, but they made it seem like Sonic was just dealt away with. Everyone thought Sonic was dead, so Tails panicked and he gave up, which that's a good save, but you know what? I still don't buy it. I just think that the writing in Sonic Forces was just a little bit off, and they did do a good save here. The person writing this is also the person that writes the stories for the IDW comics, which is Ian Flynn. So I think that this game overall, story-wise, was a treat.
I am burdened to you.
Wow, and how did you come to this well-thought-out concern?
Whenever there's a crisis, I'm either running away or standing on the sidelines. You're always rescuing me when all I do is follow you around.
Hey, who was it who stopped Eggman from blowing up Station Square, huh? And who broke me out of prison, or saved me from the Deadly Six's trap?
I then I'm wildly inconsistent.
Dude, relax. You've got brains like Eggman, speed like me, and can fly with your butt. It's okay if you still need help sometimes. That's just part of growing up.
When did you get to be so insightful?
I have my moments.
I just want to take the time out to say that even though my previous comments were saying that the story wasn't overly remarkable, I still think that the story has its redeeming moments. Like this right here with Sonic and Tails was my favorite scene in the entire game, to be honest. Sonic telling his little brother figure that, hey, everything is fine. You're as fast as me. You're as smart as Eggman. You're pretty much unstoppable. I don't know why you're having these feelings. And this is what I mean when I say that they sort of go back and they go over the mental state of Tails from the previous game, Sonic Forces. He feels like he's a burden and he feels like a coward, but he's accomplished so much more. And honestly, the game recognizing that canon-wise, so Tails can finally move forward and being the character that he's meant to be, is just such a great thing to me. Alright, next we're going to talk about the cyberspace stages, which I have mixed feelings on, to say the least. I really enjoy some of the cyberspace stages, and then there's a lot of them that are just horrible. So let me just go ahead and put this out in the open. I am a modern Sonic fan that does not want a lot of 2D sections in my modern Sonic game. That's what we made Sonic Mania for. We made Sonic Mania so we can go and do more classic 2D Sonic levels. And unfortunately, in cyberspace, there are a bunch of purely 2D levels, and it leads to a lot of confusion, at least for me. What you're currently seeing is my favorite cyberspace stage, which does not have a name, by the way. I assume it's based off of Speed Highway from Sonic Adventure. I could be mistaken, but this is my favorite stage because to me it encapsulates everything that a modern Sonic stage with boost controls should be. Now, the controls in itself, that is another story. Honestly, I think that they should have had the open zone physics, but they don't. The physics for the cyberspace stages are actually pretty bad. But for some stages, you don't really need terribly great physics, but it still would be better. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Alright, so this is the very first cyberspace stage, and as you will see here in a second, Sonic can turn a little bit in a little tight circle, but when you start boosting, he can barely turn over so he can turn around a corner, and it's really frustrating, especially when the open zone controls so well. Now, there's an exploit where you could just keep boosting in different directions, but this is not what I want in a cyberspace level, if you ask me. I mean, look at this. This is insane. How do I go from this to this? You know, the biggest thing to me with the cyberspace stages, besides the 2D thing, is the fact that a lot of them are designed after some of the previous Sonic game stages. And unlike Generations, they don't do anything clever with them. They don't make them look a lot cooler or modernize them. They just have like the same four layouts. You have Green Hill Zone, Sky Sanctuary, Chemical Plant, and you also have the city stage, which honestly, the city stage looks the best. You see it the least, I believe, but the city stage to me is the best because it doesn't look like any particular city stage from the past. It doesn't look like City Escape. It doesn't really particularly resemble the city stage from Sonic Unleashed. And honestly, they have some of my favorite designs, the city stages. But honestly, I think they could have did a lot better in that regard because it feels really cheap. It feels like somebody really ambitious made the open world zone, and somebody who made Sonic Forces and was proud of what they did and tried to up their game made the cyberspace stages. It just really feels like a departure from what the main game is about, and it's something that I don't enjoy all the time because you never know what you're going to get. And as I mentioned before, the stages aren't named, they're numbered, so you could forget the number and go to a completely different stage that looks the exact same as a stage that you don't like. Now I'm going to finally talk about what I really wanted to talk about, which is the combat. And there are some things related to the open zone that I still haven't touched on, which I'll go back to that here in a second. But the combat in Sonic Frontiers is very engaging and very fun. Some people thought it'd be like the Werehog in Sonic Unleashed, and I'm pleased to tell you that it is nothing like that. There's a lot of complex mechanics going on here. There's witch time like in Bayonetta. There are some Devil May Cry-ish mechanics. And honestly, it has a horrible lock-on. Sometimes you'll attack and the lock-on will disappear when you finish a full basic combo. I think the reasoning behind that is because the game assumes that the enemy's going to be too far away, but I'm not entirely certain. But the good parts about the combat is there's a lot of abilities that Sonic has, and it makes him seem more like he's Sonic from a TV show or an anime rather than your prototypical homing attacking Sonic. And I think that's something that everybody can really get into. He does some moves that I didn't think that he would be able to do, like the spinning slash, which is a move where he spins around in a circle, but he's doing a lot of damage while doing that circular attack. Whereas in other games where he's done things like that, he would create a tornado and they would go upwards. He's actually attacking and hitting an enemy really hard. And the enemy doesn't just die unless you have your power upgraded all the way to the maximum, which I try to stay away from, to be honest. I actually made a whole new game and only upgraded my power to, I believe it was 16, because honestly there are some enemies that die too quickly as is. So, and you want to go back to islands later on to fight the different variety of enemies. You don't want to just destroy them in 2 hits. Now there are some guardians that will force you, even some regular enemies that will force you into like a little small mini game before you can actually attack them. And these can be fun and they can be bad, if you ask me. One example that I think is bad is the shark. Another example that's bad is the strider. But then again, you also have the spider and the caterpillar, which I'll show you the caterpillar and the spider, which happen to be some of my favorites because of the music. And the way the Psyloop interacts with the caterpillar is just, it affects me on a cerebral level. I just can't tell you how much I love it. The final thing I'd like to critique Sonic Frontiers on personally within this video is that honestly, I believe that they could have made this game fully 3D when it came to the open zone, but they just, either they were under time constraints or they just felt like we were too stupid. I don't know. I can't really tell, but there are certain sections in the open zone where you get thrown into 2D sections. And it gets so bad to the point where you could actually, in 3D, go into those 2D sections and you can run through some of them in 3D. And sometimes they force you into 2D, meaning that you cannot leave the area in a conventional way. Like if you look towards the camera and try and boost towards it, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to look that way, and they won't let you have control of the camera. I don't like that, and it is a big reason why I think that this game could have done a lot better. Personally, I have to say, with all things considered, with the combat being the star, the open zone being pretty entertaining, and the story taking a turn for the better, I have to give this game a 7.5, because there's too many things going on with the cyberspace stages that I just don't like. I mean, for Christ's sakes, they have a whole stage that's built just to have drifting. Did I show that? Well, you know what? Before we go, I'll show it, and we'll just do the outro with that. If you've been paying attention to this review so far, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, leave me a like and go ahead and subscribe. Why not? It couldn't hurt anything. If you don't like my content later, just unsubscribe. Whatever. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Do you think that Sonic Frontiers is the best Sonic game ever, or do you think they could use some more polish and a couple of updates? Let me know in the comments. Later.